Hello, welcome to another Random Code stream. My name is Jason Bach. This is part, what, five? Five of doing these refactorings. And this will be the last stream for this stuff. Let me get my background music going here. Ooh, that is way too loud. I did not mean to turn my calculator on. Okay. There's a couple of other things I want to do in this, but I don't want to keep doing streams on it because last stream I tried to do this and it failed miserably. And I think what I need to do is kind of do the same thing, but smarter. So sometimes refactorings take a while to do because you realize what you did didn't quite work. So you just back out and then you try it again, knowing what you have done before. So, but there really isn't that much left. So I want to just move on to other things with rocks and other projects that I have. So I've been having a lot of fun playing blueprints. It's a slow burn, and you can watch me stream later today. But I would highly recommend playing the game, and I would highly recommend keeping in mind, keep trying new things with the game because it takes a while for things to kick in, and it's still kicking in for me. Like I don't think I'm anywhere near the end of it. So, but it's slowly but surely starting to get into a good grind, which is a good thing. All right, and oh my God, I live in Minnesota, and we have had a massive snowstorm this weekend. So I think I shoveled once before I went to bed last night, and then I got up and it was like 4 to 6 inches in the driveway. And of course, when the plow goes by, it dumps all that heavy crap at the bottom of the. And you're like, why don't you have a snowblower? You live in Minnesota. What are you, an idiot? I'm like, yes, I am. Partly because there'd be no place to fit it in my garage, but also I've lived here 25 years. I grew up in Wisconsin, and I can count the number of times on my hand where I wish I had a snowblower. This today was pushing it a little bit, but we have 4 snowblowers in the house. Me, my wife, and 2 kids. So, that helps a lot. Hopefully it's supposed to taper off today. It's also supposed to be windy and blustery. So, yeah. It'll be fun to see. I fly out Tuesday morning for VS Live in Las Vegas, and it'll be interesting to see, even with the snowstorm getting out by Sunday afternoon, evening, it's going to be interesting to see what the ramifications of all the canceled flights and how that gets backed up, and hopefully the roads are good enough by Tuesday morning, because I have my ride picking me up. But then I'll be going to a place that's like in the mid to high 80s every day, and I'll be stuck in a casino for 4 days. Yippee! All right. Let's get back into this. So, the intent is to take this void and value builders that we have and combine them into one, because they're similar but not enough, and so we need a way to kind of like combine them together so that we don't have a lot of code duplicated. We'd rather have it shared. But as I found out, there's context as we go through these two methods and how they work, and how other places call these things, and it was starting to get to be quite the mess. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say mock method builder. This is what I did last time. What I'm going to do this time is not try to comment on common code. We're just going to take like one of these and just bash it through. If that makes sense, and kind of make this the default, and see how we can get both of them to act the same. What is this? Oh, we don't. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So we have this. Whoops. The return type, yeah, that was something else we needed to do. String return type, and then we say if not method returns void. Then we do this, else we're going to do something else. I think here we say void. I need to turn off Copilot. I forgot about that. I have it on my machine where I work, but I don't have it here, and I need to turn off the inline suggestions. Because it just gets way too chatty otherwise, and it gets really, really annoying. There are some things that LLMs are good at, but there are some things that, with that feature, it's just like this constant noise coming at my face, and I'm like, could you please go away? All right, so we have the return type, and I think when we get down to here, that's where we saw void. And when we do the method signature down here, we'll just have that being returned. Okay. Now with the method parameters, I think that's exactly the same between the two. Like this is type attribute descriptions, and this is attribute descriptions. This is what I did last time, and I was like, nah. Void and value builder, they do the same thing. Method signature. Yeah, there would be no return type attribute description, so this would never happen, so that's okay. And then we do the member identifier. We say it's public. Do your right line over line. Then we say out parameter, because if the parameters are out parameters, we need to do something. And then if this is not null, now this is what I didn't understand with the value builder. Is that we say here, if the method parameters, this is where I think things started to go off the rails for me a little bit the last time. Which is in the value builder, we put this in here. And we don't with the void builders, but I don't understand why, because this is all about parameters. So, hey, Electron. So I'm kind of thinking we need this for both. That's probably going to break some code, but that also seems like and that we would only put it up here. Because if you have no parameters, that's the thing. If you have no parameters, there's no way to check it. Now, what I'm kind of curious is, do we put that... Yeah, see, here we do. And I bet up here we don't. That was the difference. Okay, okay. I know a lot of this is me babbling and people watching going, what is he talking about? But I think this actually should go in here. Okay. And we would build all this. Right? If I go to the value builder, we say build with And if we get to this point, we're saying oh, okay. Okay, now I get it. The method handler here, and let's be clear that we're saying mock method builder. We're calling that one. That's what's actually building the handler stuff. And because we're either in a, this is for with parameters. So if we got to this point, we would be like, hey, you should have returned, because the method handler here, that's what's going to do somewhere in here. Yeah, the returns. And that's what we want. So that's what's going on. Today I tried to learn C, but I don't know when I tried to run the code and the terminal failed. By the way, my code was correct. I will take your word for it. And then we also want to put here mock method builder. That. And we do not need to pass, as we said, the method identifier in, because it should be part of the method. And then this, we can take this off. See, sometimes it does that, and it's like that's actually helpful, but then there are times where it does another thing, and it's not very helpful. Now, the expectations exception builder, why if we're passing in the method, why would we do that? Okay. And the same thing, we don't need the member identifier if this is what I want to keep going with this, because I know it's going to be the right thing to do at the end of the day. We just got to get there. This, we don't need that anymore. This, yep, that can go. And that can go. Okay, so that's a little bit cleaner. And I know this method is called by the indexer. And so these should all just fall through, because an indexer doesn't let you do ref returns or ref read only returns. It also doesn't. So we don't need to worry about this stuff coming into play. I think. This could easily break a lot of stuff. So that's why I want to do this with a little bit of care and forethought. If I'm not careful. Now, so far, we may have only broken one thing, which is yeah, don't need this here. Don't need that there. And I don't know why. Oh, okay. Don't change that too much, because these two are going to go away. So you can go away. And you can go away. Okay, what now? Ah, okay, so more of these. More! More! Yes, thank you for being so slow. I don't know why the error window has become so slow recently. It's quicker to look at the output at times and just see. Okay, so that's all good. We shouldn't have broken anything because all we've been doing is creating this new class that nothing is referencing yet. So. And as I make these changes, as long as the integration tests pass, then that's a good sign. If some of the unit tests pass, that means maybe some of the strings. Oh, 6 failed. That's wonderful. That's great. Yeah, it's exactly what I wanted to see. Why'd they fail? My brother denied when I asked him that I can install Linux on my laptop. So it looks like this just... Oh, the descriptions are... Well, that's interesting. This might have actually been a fix in a way. The init. Okay, wait a minute. The init. Okay, so this is with an indexer. Do you also play CS2? I don't... What, Counter-Strike 2? I don't know what that's you're referring to or not. Well, it can't be in the method handler. It has to be in the builder, and it's because... The indexer, this is the getter. The method is the get method. Counter-Strike. Yeah, no, I've never played it. Never hits that code. Why? was weird. It should have. Okay. The entire member identifier is for the indexer 0. If I look at the indexer, wait, what? Oh, that's right. A init is a set. And its method identifier is 1. Why would I do that? The funny thing is that it does these right. These are all 2, 2. It's only... Maybe it's the other ones too. Maybe I just... that. Oh, they're all off by 1. Well, it's a, it looks like a weird rendering bug. You can't see it because it's hidden by my property model. Oh. Okay, I get the thing with the methods having different identifiers. But in the case where you just have an init, we're assuming that you should do +1. And that's wrong. That's completely wrong. I get if you're saying you have a get here, it's going to be that member identifier. And we do something outside to say if you have a get and set or get and init that you have to add one because you're going to be making two. But here, if all you have is a set, you would just do member identifier. So I think what we actually need to do is say this.accessors equals property accessor set. If it's just a set, it's this. Otherwise, it's member identifier plus one. And the same thing here. So this was actually a slight bug. There. Now what happens when we go to this test? It passes. What happens when we run all the tests now? Only 4 fail now. So okay, so in this test, but aha, there's more. Shoot. I refuse to give up. I thought I told you, Copilot, to shut up. Jeez. I get what the problem is. Because there's a private get here, okay, which the user won't be able to mock, but the setter is. So when we get to the change I just made here, we're assuming we add 1, okay? But we don't, and we have to, yeah, can be seen by containing get, set, and init. So I think first of all, I think we need to move these up so that they're set first. Okay. Because now we know if the get, the set, or the init can be seen. So now we know that if it was just a setter, we wouldn't have to look at the getter, and if an emitter, we wouldn't have to look at the getter. Because what's happening here is, if I come down here, the setter is the one that's getting the member identifier, because we can't override the getter. And so here we want to say else if the getter can be seen, then you +1. Otherwise, you just do member identifier. Which raises a slight quandary. In that a get method here is going to be made because it's private, but it really shouldn't have an identifier. It's the wrong identifier. The joys of coding. I kind of get how to fix this. What else you say here? This.get can be seen by containing assembly. It would be this. Otherwise, it's just member identifier. And so you do the same thing down here. The problem is that up here, it really shouldn't have an identifier at all. But I really do not want to go through the entire code base and yeah, here we set it and make this, which is currently a uint, a nullable uint. That is going to be a mess everywhere. Now I was going to say, well, I could make it because by doing this, I think I've fixed the problem. If I run all the tests, because the get method in this case would never be used with its member identifier anyway, so it's kind of a wash. But I am going to comment the hell out of that, that's for sure. Yeah, now they all pass. But note, the member identifier here, if ends up being false, the member identifier being passed into the method model constructor is technically wrong. However, this is due to the fact that we still need to have a method model instance for get method, but it's never used to generate code. Arguably, you could make get method null here, because those are nullable. And in fact, now that I think about it, let's do this. And this might uncover something. If this can be seen, then assign it. Because that means that it's a valid value, right? And these are nullable, yes. Okay, wait a minute. I might be onto something. Hold on, I'm cooking. Just cooking just like Kimi Antonelli today, right? Is that his name? Yeah, the guy from Mercedes that won the Chinese Grand Prix today. Like the second youngest driver ever to win a Grand Prix, F1 Grand Prix. Okay. So we only set this if it can actually be seen, because if you can't see it, you can't do anything with it. So effectively, it should be null. Does that break any of my assumptions? Now they all pass. Okay, so actually writing out that comment helped. It helped. Though I don't know why I do this. What is this here for? Why do I do a nullable assignment like that? Is that like a holdover? Just just an assignment using the 2 question marks. I know it's like a nullable thing. If it's, yeah, it didn't matter. So that's cool. That's cool. So if anything, we cleaned up a little bit, and we got this to be a little bit more consistent, which I like this. I like that I actually did this. This just makes the code more correct. And I didn't like having that comment there. I'm like, well, if you can't, you're not going to use the get method anyway, then just don't use it. Makes more sense that way. All right, I'm going to, before we move on, let's run the big old 8-minute test run. Wait. Why did I put an L there? Why anything? Oh, I'm running the test again. Okay, fine. And then we will run the big cogen test thing. All right. It doesn't pay to look out my window here because I can't get a good determination if it's still snowing or not. If I looked out my window that way, it would. Well, there's no window that way. I mean, if I looked that way, that way's west, that way's east, and because I shoveled the driveway, I'd be able to look out and just see, are we still getting accumulation or not? Actually, I'm going to take a quick break because I got to go to the bathroom. So I'm just going to do that real quick. I'm going to leave this running here. Please don't go away. But I will be back in, well, I will put the screen up just to say I've taken a break, but I'll be back in about a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere. All right, back. It's barely snowing now. The shoveling we did is, like, if I look at the difference, it's like barely a dusting on the sidewalk, so that's good. On the path that leads up to our house. So that's a good sign that the actual snow accumulation is tapered off, but it's pretty breezy out, so we probably get some drifting going on, but I'll take that. I'll take that. We take those. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. Would really appreciate it. Get more coffee. Okay, cool. I don't necessarily. Well, I could. I could make a fixed up some member identifier usage, especially around properties. Okay, cool. So even if I didn't do anything else with this and I just got rid of this mock method builder, because that's still not being used. Did my music stop? Play all. Oh, you're not on repeat. That's why. Okay. I'm like, gotta have some music going on in the background. Okay, so we do have a slight improvement, and I do like that. Now, the fun thing is, because we do this down here, right? We say, yeah, is the getter visible and is the setter visible? And then that's what determines if we should put mock property builder. It's a good thing to do this. I don't know why. I should have it in my editor config to say always force full qualification, because then I know where things are being called on. Oh, you can do a ref. That's right. Okay, I take that back. For property, you can do a ref return. For an indexer, yeah, you can't. I guess. Okay. This is where pulling the trigger makes me sweaty, because especially for the indexer, we're using that to build the handler, because in the property we don't. There are effectively no parameters to a property, so. But if we come back here, yeah, again. Oh, that's not where we want to care about this. This is almost where I want to throw it to the wolves and just say, go for it. Like, let's just put these in and let the chips fall where they may and see what breaks. Because if we look at the value builder, okay, who all calls this? One place calls it. And then there is the build method handler. And there are 3 places it's called. Well, 2 within this, and then 1 outside of it. So the call sites are not too bad. And we could just change, I think, like 4 lines of code and put in to-dos there just to guard them a little bit to say, you know, instead of calling either the value or the void builder, we're just calling the builder. So let's do that. So here where we're calling build, what we're going to do is put in to do method build refactor. And we're just going to make this mock method builder. Okay. And then on the value builder, the other thing is the build method. Now this is all within. Yeah, so this is the other one. Okay, so we want to do here, again, this comment. Okay, that did that. Now at the void builder, this should also be 1 spot. And then within the void builder, build method handler. Where is that all being done? The 2 inside and then this one. No. We want to grab that comment to be consistent. This is where, like, I'm passing in the should throw does not return exception. So why I'm doing that here? This is almost where I am convinced that this is going to break stuff. But what I'm more concerned about is it going to actually break things so badly that the integration tests don't pass? But we have 4 places now that we know we need to change it. And so I'm going to put that in my notes here, at least so I remember. And that's now what we've got to tease through to note. Look for this. Okay. I know I am reading the chat. Dude, I gotta keep context in my head. It's convincing my brother to install Linux on my laptop, and guess what? He still denied, even after convincing him for 20 minutes. Good luck. That's all I can say. Okay, fine. We can't. There. We'll just put that in the notes like that. I mean, I've never installed Linux on a machine of mine. We had an old Windows 10 machine. I've thought of resurrecting that, putting that in my room somewhere and installing like Ubuntu or another distro on it, just to get more familiar with it. But that's like with 20 million other things I want to do with my life. So. Okay, so here's the first big test. If it doesn't build, that means the integration tests have code that's being generated that's wrong, which is fine. That'll be an indication of something. If they pass, or if the build succeeds, doesn't mean they pass, but it means at least we're not generating incorrect code. Then it'll be interesting to see if the integration test pass and the unit test pass. First things first, what happens when we build? I will be surprised if this build's successful. Yeah. Yep. That actually was expected. So if we go into... See, this is what I don't like about this. It doesn't actually go into the code. The generated code. I'd love it to, because then I could actually see... No, don't fix. There's no way you could fix that. You LLM, you. You can't do that. So if we go into integration tests, dependencies, projects, no, not analyzers. Oh, and now it's not going to show us the, yeah, abstract class, generic. Class indexer, trying to find. Okay, so if we go to the definition of this, can we actually, okay, so now we should be able to at least see what the error is, right? Class indexer, getter init create expectations dot handler for. Am I looking at the wrong thing? Yeah, this is a setter. What's all this code for, sir? I think I put the link in the description. This is a source code generator I wrote in .NET. That's a mocking framework. And I'm trying to do some minor improvements to the code because it's quite the mess at times underneath the scenes. And I'm trying to spend some time to untangle some of it to make it a little bit easier to maintain. And of course, that is not an easy endeavor. I mean, I get what the problem is that this probably used to be like it's saying there is no return value on the handler, and that's true, there isn't, because there shouldn't be. And so we're not doing the right thing here. We're assuming when we go look at the method handler, that there will be a return value call, and that's not true. Yeah, like here, we're always assuming there is a return value call, and that's not true. See you later, Electron. Thanks for stopping by. And this isn't true at all. So what we need to do is we need to look at the method handler here and go, what is it doing? The method arguments look the same. And then it just says, right line callback invoke and then raise events. Because for a void, the only thing you can do is call the callback if it was set. There's nothing else you can do. For something that's actually returning something, you could possibly do more. So I think what I need to do here is say if not method returns void, if I could spell, then we're going to do all this crap. Else, what we're going to do is look at what the void did, which is just this. Now that's going to change this when I build, hopefully. Doesn't mean it's all right, it's just... But now you saw that changed here, so that's gotten rid of something, at least some errors, which is good. That's progress. I have argument create expectations, so I'm going to get rid of this one. This is on arg test types. Okay. I have argument. Where are you all being used? Okay, and then you're saying, no, stay here. Stay with me. Stay with me. 128. Oh, wait. The errors They are decreasing. Okay, wait a minute. Maybe it just needed to take some time. So we still have errors. A method marked does not return should not return. Fair. A value of type void may not be assigned. So we are getting closer, at least to not having integration tests fail. Which is a good thing. What is this on? This is on the does not return test type. Okay. So does not return test type. Uses does not return. Okay. And you're saying line 217. Oh, it's definitely returns. It's a void method. These are two methods that are both marked does not return, and they throw this. So they should have this attribute on it. It doesn't return. Oh, wait a minute. These are both 217 on the does not return, right? 217 and 214. Oh, and then, yeah, here, this isn't right either. Okay. So I think I know what the problem is here in that, like if you look at the errors for this, they're all 217, 214. They're in this area. So it's a void method, but what should happen here is we should have here what we should have is a call that does not return exception. And then here we should call base void method, but you're right, you can't assign this. So it's unfortunately some code that we're reusing that doesn't work with the void. It does work here when you're returning something because you're saying, well, we have to at least, we're putting the passing into nothing even though we're returning something, but we do that anyway. But then we say in either case, we're going to throw does not return. So something here is not handling things correctly. I'm guessing we do this twice. Yes, there's two places we do it. So within this, which we're saying if the method doesn't return void, then yes, we do this. But here, if we're looking at this code, we're doing the first handler, we're doing callback invoke, and then we do raise events if it was there. But what we're missing is this. Okay. And now also the other place we did it, here. So this is also a difference between the two in terms of what we need to do here. So let's go and look at the mock method void builder. I never liked that it did this too. That seemed a little bit wrong. But, okay, so if we do is abstract here, let's try to get these lined up so I can visually see. Yeah, ignore that. We do pass parameters. We say return. That's just for the parameter. Okay, and then we say target is that. Okay. Now for the void builder, we're just doing calling it and then saying throw. Okay. The difference here is that we're actually assigning it. Otherwise, we're returning. Okay. So I think what we could do is take this and say here, if not method returns void. And then we got to grab that code again. We do that. That's to change it so that the semantics are correct. Let's rebuild. Okay, and build again. And let's see if we at least got rid of those errors. We may still have others, but... Oh, it succeeded. Okay, so that's a first step. So now let's run the tests, the integration tests, and let's see how much success we have there. 82 failed. Yippee! So we're doing an extra expectation exception where we shouldn't. My second year CS study hard because one day I want to be like this, programming big thing. Well, I appreciate that, but there's also the general consensus now that nobody's going to program anymore. I still do this. I mean, even if I have a job that we're supposed to use LLMs more, that's fine. You know, I still will always want to know how things work, and I'm still going to always want to know how this, like, I'd actually love to know more about assembly code than I do. All right, so it's saying for this test we call foo. So yeah, we're just doing this. And that don't seem right at all. Why would we just do that? This is for a void. Yeah, we think we need to throw an exception here, like twice, and that's not necessarily true. I could just change the code at the call sites and see what it's doing then with this. I think this is excessive here. I think this is one too many. I really don't know. I mean, I gotta keep in mind, I've got progress. I was making progress. I just don't know what this looks like. And then what we are trying to achieve. Okay, so if I come back to this. So let's uncomment that. Comment that back in. Comment. I feel like I'm doing surgery. Wait, that's all? Okay. All right, so if I say rebuild everything, what happens now? It should succeed, but this should change. And it did. Yeah, we're missing a hell of a lot from what we did before. Yeah, we're not doing the found match. We're not doing, if you didn't find a match, then we do this. So whatever I had before with the So that's the validation member with parameters. Yeah, and we don't do that with the value builder. So if we look at with parameters here, maybe these two are just so different that they can't actually be shared. And these are static, so we could say build method validation handler with parameters returns void or returns value. And then handle them the way they need to be handled. I mean, they are close. That would be like the simple thing to do, but it also feels like it'd be the wrong thing to do because we do have similarity with a lot of the code. But it also feels different enough that it's going to start to make this hard to maintain. Like we're going to have to start putting switches in there to say, well, if it's void, then we do this found match thing. Although a lot of this is also very much the same. And then we do a found match at the bottom. So we could say if that, and then the for each, I think. Yeah, I don't know why here I'm checking if parameters length is greater than 0. We're calling this because we think there's parameters. Stupid. Okay, I think we could do this. We're going to try. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid. Don't pin that. So let's come in here and go when we are building for with parameters. Okay. We're going to say if method returns void. That means we need to do this found match crap. Okay. And then we do that, and then we say is generic method, which I believe, why are these being pinned? Don't pin them. Wait, we need the value builder up. Okay, so We did the is generic method. We did the is generic method. Handle name. All of that's the same. Okay. But here, right before we do the build method handler, we're going to say if method returns void that. Because now we're saying we found a match, right? This is where it starts getting soupy because the void and the value don't do the same thing. Yes, again, why the check here? You know you would need that. This is where keeping these separate was actually a mistake because they should have been kept together and handled that way. Because this otherwise gets really just messy. Stop giving me suggestions, okay? Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, it just keeps going. Oh, sure, that's what you would need. Go away. Absolute crap. I'm almost inclined at this point to say we could do this. We could say this, okay, and then we need to do that again, and then we need to put a break here. Okay. And then we do that, and then we do that. That's all this. Okay, now, this right line is this one. Now, why do we do a should throw does not return exception? I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't. We could say here if method returns void, do this. Otherwise, I guess we just do that. Okay, now we're actually even using that. We're using it to pass into the method handler. Oh, this is getting so messy. No parameters. What's the difference between that and value builder? I think they're almost the same, aren't they? Yeah. Because a no parameter does the same thing. Okay. I think let's undo it again. Nope. That. Okay. That. And that. Okay. Now, if I rebuild, does it rebuild? Or do we have 6 problems again? Succeeded. The integration tests, do they pass or do we still have problems? 74 failed. I made it worse. No handlers were found for foo. Of course not. Why would you have any for foo? Foo is an abstract void. Okay. Let's look here. If I go back and change them again, what happens here? Just be patient, Jason. Just be patient. We'll get this. We'll get this. This is the tedium, but this, whoops. This was the right way to handle this, as kind of annoying as this is. I am going to succeed at this. Okay, so that's saved now. If I come back here, now I say, so let's do this. Wait. No, that's what we made. What is it when we do it the old way, which worked? We needed an else. Which makes sense. Because remember that code, I think, way up here when we handled it for the shim? This is an abstract method. So wait a minute. Okay, if it's not an abstract, that means it could have a default interface member implementation. That's right. Okay. So if we look at the way it was currently built with the mock method void builder, Okay, that's where that happens. Okay. And in the void, we're always doing this else. Does it make sense that that's the way it should have been done for the value builder as well? Because if we come down here, we only do it here. But why though? I think we're close. I think we're getting close. I don't understand though that when we do the value builder that we were saying else here inside of this check. But for the void builder, we were doing it outside and enclosing all of it. I get what we're missing. I just don't understand why we would do it one way and not the other. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Don't do that. Keep hands off keyboard. Just don't randomly hit a key. I don't understand for the value builder why we're saying if it's not abstract, then we put an else in there. And if it's abstract, we throw the builder. Now in this case, we're saying else. If it's not abstract to do that, else we throw the... I think it's almost 6 cents, 1/2 dozen of the other. But the problem is that with the void, we're always assuming an else. I kind of think that's what we should have been doing in the first place. Like we want to put this here. And we can clean that up later. And then we put that out here. Now again, I don't really care if the unit tests break massively. What I do care about is if the integration tests and the code generation tests pass. Because if the unit tests break, that just means something slightly changed. And I probably can fix all those. Why would you... Be explicit, Jason. Come on, that's your standard. Okay, now if we build this, do we get back what we thought we should get? Or are we going to... Okay, we get a space. I can handle that. Let's just take that out for now. Okay. Now if we come back to the integration test, how may fail this time? None! That is a good sign. That is a good sign. It's not a perfect sign, but that's a good sign. Let's run the code generation tests and let's just see. I know it's going to take 8 more minutes, but if these pass, I think we're finally seeing the light. And then if that happens, which it may not, what we can do is, because the void and value builder for the makes is kind of almost the same thing we've been running into here, but it's simpler. So that one I do off camera because that's boring. In fact, all these, I think once I get this is the biggest one. Because if I can get this to finally work, then I will do the same thing here. This one's a small one. I definitely need to shore up some testing to be a little bit more specific on stuff. Maybe that's where I'm going to start using Copilot to do all my things, to add some tests. This one I really want to do, but it's going to be very tough to, primarily because I'd like the type arguments naming context to be on the method, but the method models, all the models are records, and by default that would end up being a property which is part of a quality, and that would get really ugly. This is what's led to a feature that I want to work on in another library, which is to add a source generator that says if you have a class, a record marked with exclude, with the names of all the properties you want to exclude, it will automatically handle the equality to remove that for you. It might be an interesting endeavor to try, you know. So we might have to unfortunately leave this in the way it is. So unfortunately, gotta let this go for about another 5 minutes or so. I would say smoke them if you got them, but I don't smoke, and I don't want to encourage people to smoke. I haven't forgotten I'm streaming. I'm just waiting, and I have nothing to think about to share right now. So I'm just hoping this works. And I'll look at the unit tests and see how many are actually failing. And if it's, if it's just purely like the code diffs are different, I can go back and change those. That's fine. Because this will show that if there's any compilation errors. I typically try to make sure that I always have an integration test for a feature in Rocks so that that's covered. And then the unit tests are there to be a little bit more like, is it actually producing the things that I think it should? And so they both have value in my opinion. All right, we're almost there. Just waiting for the sea of red to fly by, because it would mean something didn't compile correctly. And that means we don't have an integration test around something. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Well, it's only 8, and it has to do with it seems like it's all unreachable code or does not return. So that's not great, not terrible. As they said in Chernobyl. Okay, so unreachable code detected. Unreachable code. These the bug provider, and I mean, in all honesty, a change like what I just made, and it seems like this is that exception. Yeah, it seems like both of these are related. So, all right, that's okay. Let's close all that. Let's go back to code generation tests and go into test generator. We still have those. Are we on debug? Yes, we are. Okay, so now let's go back to program and test with type. So we want to test with a specific type, and the type we're going to pick is System Reactive Platform Services, exception services. Does that give us the same like 4 errors? And then we can look at the dumped code. Okay, cool. So now let's do this. Do that. And now let's copy value. Actually, I'm doing this wrong. I need to put this in the mock code dump, not here. This is not going to help. Okay, stop. Let's come over here, mock code dump, dump it. And now we should be able to see clearly what the errors are. Okay, so that's a does not return. Wait. So it should not return. That makes sense. And you see the one spot. So I think if you took this out, that gets one error. But then we need to hear, whoops, not there. That now solves it. Because this else case does the expectation exception, So we're missing, in this case, somehow not putting in okay, I'm going to stick with this for a second because this might be simpler to see what's going on that's wrong. So what we want to do is say, let's find match here. Or not. Here. I think we want to take that out for a second. So we say if found match, we say no, wait. Okay, this is fine. I just did this. I looked in the wrong spot though. There's a found match true, and then we build the yeah, we really can't say break there. Because in here, we're saying throws. Okay, so if we come back... No. God, where... Here. So we only want to say this if the method returns void and not should throw does not return exception. Right, because what we did here is we said, if we found a handler, we do the thing, we do the callback, and then we just throw. Because that's what we should do with the does not return. I'm assuming that would work. And now we say a found match. Okay, now we say if not found match. What we would want to do here is say if we'd want to put an else here to say oh, that's interesting. Follow the logic here. Even if I remove this here, this is still going to think it should not return. Because, let's get rid of that space there to make it look. That's what makes it go away. And I can kind of sort of get that because it can't reason enough about it to go, oh, that's what you really meant. We're saying we're trying to find a match for the exception. If we find a match, then cool. We found a match. We do call count. We do this, and then we immediately throw. Does not return exception, because that's it. There's nothing else to do here. However, here we're saying if you didn't find a match, then you need to throw an expectation exception because you did not actually meet the expectation. And this is just a case where you didn't set any handlers, and we're going to throw an exception down here. But the code can't go through this and go, oh, you set this to true, which is fine, and then you throw this. You really don't even need to set this to true, because you get to this point and you would throw, and there's no reason to do the found match assignment, but that's so small to do. So fine. Okay. But you come down here and you're like, well, wait a minute. If we got through the for each loop, now we're here and we say if found match is false, well, we're going to throw this. However, now it thinks you're following through, and you shouldn't because you have this attribute on it. So the thing we need to do here is we need to say if found match, we do this. Now we're going to say if should throw, we want to write that. So we're going to say writer.write lines 1, 2, 3, that, except only one of them. I don't know why you put 2 there. It's getting messy, but it is what it is. Okay, so now if we do this, what we should see with the mock code dump, let's take that out. Let's run the program. Oh, I gotta shut that down, sorry. And now it works. Okay. Do my integration tests. They build. Do they run? They do. Okay, I think now we're finally on a good path. Let's go back to program. Let's do this, do that, run. And again, sorry, we're going to have to wait another 8 minutes, but that's okay. That's okay. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, now would be a great time to do that, and I would really appreciate it. And then I can go eat lunch, do a couple of chores. Don't know if I'm going to shovel again. Probably, I don't know, maybe not. But then I want to play more blueprints this afternoon and evening. This is the satisfaction of getting something to work. It's a human thing in me, you know, where you're actually like building and producing something, and it just gives you that feeling of, oh, this actually finally worked. And it's like the connections in your head are still being resolved and made. I guess is the best way to put it. So that's why I'm going to just keep doing this. I mean, I think it's human to want to learn, and it's human to want to create. And it's human in wanting to be part of that process. So that's why I'm still doing all this stuff. And I will continue to always do this kind of stuff because it's what interests me. As I've said before, the analogy that goes through my head is when you go to actually work out, it is for a specific purpose, in the sense that you are building your muscles, you're building your endurance, you're building your cardio, and you're the one lifting the weights. You're the one doing that work. On my job, should I be the one that's lifting all of the, if my job was to move stuff around, of course I'd use forklifts. Of course I'd use dollies. Of course I'd use all this stuff to make it easier to do that kind of stuff. Why would I do all that by hand? That would be, incredibly tiring and taxing and not as quick. So to me, that's fine then, make that happen. But this is my gym. This is where I spend the time to do my own exercise, to build myself up, so to speak. Excuse me. Gotta make more coffee as soon as this is done. So, if these pass and the integration tests pass, then I can do a push to the branch. I'm going to run the unit tests. I would expect some of them to fail, and primarily because probably the text doesn't match and they get really picky on that. But the integration tests and the code gen tests are the ones that really show, hey, you're on the right path. And changing all those unit test codes I've said many times, that's boring to watch. This is already boring to watch. So. Almost there. Did we fix everything? Don't know. There was that other class that also had the same error. I hope that's not a... like a difference with the types or anything like that. Yes. That's a good position to be in. Okay. Let's go back to first the analysis one. Let's just make sure that I have been actually using the new one, because that would be embarrassing. Yeah, these are a little different for the indexer in terms of how it does stuff, so I don't really want to mess with that too much. Okay. Let's just run the analysis tests, and let's see how many break. And then I'll just look at a couple to see, like, is it text that's off? 62. That's not bad. I was thinking it was going to be in the hundreds. That's usually happened when I make a change with how the code is being generated, that I'll get like 200 or 300 failing, and most of them are just because of that. Let's go to one that's like, I don't know, just an interface generator test. So I go to method. Okay, so what is, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, like all of this has changed, and that's interesting. Let's actually bring that up in the open test log here. Okay, that's the only thing that's changed. So it's saying here that we have a class, we have an interface that has a method. Okay, fine, that makes sense. So we have a retrieve, and we're saying here, if it's not null, then we're going to go through this and run it. Else, we're going to do this. Whereas before we just said, well, you know, this is what you're going to hit. It's 6 cents, which we don't have cents anymore in America. So 5 cents, 1/2, a dozen minus 2. I don't know how you want to say that anymore. I always say now, all right, here's my 5 cents on this issue because there's no longer 2 cents. But for something like this, this is just a code production difference. If I look at, like if I say another one, so like in this case, all I would do is remove the create code and then and then redo it and regenerate it, and it would probably work. If we look at something like optional arguments test and what the difference is there, what does that look like? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay, that's actually a bug. So these I'm going to have to look over a little bit more closely, because what's happening here is we have a perform method that has this on it. And so what we should do is not be printing out the value here, and we are. And so there is a difference between the two. So some of these, I think I'm going to be okay to just regen and start over. But like some of these, I'm going to have to go back and say, why is it now putting the value there when it really shouldn't? But that's not a tomorrow problem, but that's a future problem. I think we're in a good spot. 62. So git commit 408. Finally merged method handlers together. Integration and code gen test pass. Some issues. 68 tests. Remain failing. Need to resolve those. Okay, but I'm committing this because I think we're very, very close, and I think some of these are just hopefully they're edge cases. So I think at this point I'm going to stop with the stream because I've been going for quite a long time and I got other stuff to do over lunch before I try to stream blueprints again. So yeah, I will, in the next stream, I do a coding stream, I will bring up a summary of what I found in fixing these unit tests. And just if I ran into anything that caused me to spin off into the weeds again, I will do that. But the plan is off camera is to resolve these, get rid of those 2 classes so we only have 1 now, like even in code, and get rid of the to-dos. And then do the same thing with the makes, which hopefully that should be somewhat easier. But I'll do that all off camera. I probably won't do a coding stream tomorrow morning, and I will probably, well then I'm off for the rest of the week because I'm in Vegas doing presentations. So the next time I do a coding stream will probably be at the earliest next Sunday, if not later. But, you know, that's, so I don't know how much more time I'm going to be able to get on this stuff and fix it, but I might do some of that tonight. We'll see. We'll see. But definitely a lot of progress with this refactoring. I think, you know, this is definitely helping, I think to some degree, to get a little bit of some stuff cleaned up. And I think that's going to help over the long haul. So with that, I want to thank everybody who's been watching either now or in the future. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. Again, I will be doing some blueprints, gaming stream stuff this afternoon and or evening, and then off the rest of the week, and I'll be coming back next week. So thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.